Hi everyone, it's Jeff Mitosu Crafts. Thank you for joining me today and welcome to our channel. So today I'm sharing the slider card featuring the Horse and Sleigh bundle from the One Horse Open Sleigh Suite collection, which is an online exclusive available from 6th of July. So I'll be using the stamp set and the dies, and we'll be doing some stamping first. The colors I'll be using are Crumb Cake, Petal Pink, Pool Party, Pebbled Path, and Early Espresso. And I'll also be heat embossing in. I've got a piece of basic white thick, and I'm going to stamp the horse and sleigh image using Crumb Cake. So I'll be watercoloring with Wink of Stella. So with the Crumb Cake, if you want a lighter shade, do stamp off, but I'm just going to ink that up and stamp on my basic white thick card. For the coloring, I'm going to use Petal Pink. So I've just got a block here and I'm going to use that as my palette. Pool Party. And also the Crumb Cake as well if I need a bit more of that. So Wink of Stella, we're just gonna add some shading and color the man and woman. So I'm gonna start that off first. So just pick up a little bit and then start off where you want the darker color. As the ink travels further, it goes lighter, or you can just do black coloring. Add some more on the horse, pink as well on the tail, just for different look and shading. And finally the sleigh, I'm gonna add a bit of shading. So I'm gonna start off where it's gonna be darker, so at the back, underneath, and just color that in underneath the trim as well. So once that's done, just clean up your brush and start off with Pool Parties. And then I'm just gonna color the clothing of the man. Again, starting off in the darker areas first, where I think it's going to be, and spread those out is it. And then for the shading of the Crumb Cake, just add a lot of Wink of Stella, just so it's not too dark, and you can add a bit more underneath the trim on the actual sleigh. And then on the horse, so we're just gonna add on the mane, on the legs, and then the body. You can be quite quick with this, just making sure that it is nice and shaded. Leave some areas white for the highlights and darker underneath on the hooves. And finally the face for the pillows as well, just add some shading. So once that's done, let that dry. I'm going to use Early Espresso and Sending Warmth Your Way. So this one measures 2.5 by 3/4 of an inch, and I'm just going to stamp that in Early Espresso. You can stamp it on a bigger piece of card and then just trim and wait for that to dry as well, especially if your ink pad is new like mine. And for the other sentiment, so I've just got a piece that is 3/4 of an inch tall, so I'm just going to emboss in copper. So prepare your cardstock, align your stamping on the right hand side, add your copper, embossing powder, and I'll just get the heat. So this one is my card base. It's basic white thick, measuring 8.25 by 7 inches, folded in half at 3.5. I have a layer of basic white that is 8 inches by 3.25, so 1/4 of an inch smaller than the card front, and that's what we're going to be stamping on. For the slider mechanism, I have basic white thick that is 7.5 by 1.5. Get a piece of scrap paper and just tear the edge. So this will act as our snow mound, and we'll use that as a mask. Place that along the bottom and use tape if you need to, just to keep it in place. Now for the stamping, we're going to use bevel path. So check how dark it is first. If you want it first generation, second generation, or third generations. So just make sure that your stamping is straight against the side, just along our layer. And if you're gonna offset and use a second generation, just make sure you go down a little bit instead of going up, because what will happen is you'll have a darker line on some of them. So if you want some more on the edge, keep going down. So continue on, and if you're gonna go up, make sure that you stamp off and then go up, just so you know that all of the ink are going to be the same. So just build up your background, and once that's done, we can do some ink blending. So I'm gonna use petal pink, and I'm just gonna ink blend along the top. So blending brush, add a little bit, start off the page and then introduce it onto your layer, add more color if needed, and just bring that down just above the tree lines. You can double check against the horse and sleigh if you want to add a bit more color. I'm also gonna ink blend a little bit at the bottom of the sentiment, again just to give it a bit of a edge and color to slightly match the background. So I'm just gonna die cut the horse and sleigh, and when you're aligning this, I would suggest to look at the sleigh for positioning, and then your horse as well. So we're independent Stampin' Up demonstrators based in the UK. So if you live in the UK, France, Germany, Austria, Netherlands, Belgium, or Ireland, you'll be able to purchase current Stampin' Up products from our online shop. Check out the description below for the product links as well as other useful links to our website. So there we go. So the cutting on the sleigh looks better when it's in place. So now we're gonna build our slider. So as I mentioned, I have a basic white thick card. My layer is gonna go on top there. We're gonna cut along the bottom there, and I'll go through the slider in a second. So bring in a trimmer. Align the top left or the bottom left along the 7/8 of an inch, and you're gonna cut between 1 inches to 4.5. So you can line up your cutting blade at 1 inches, press down, and then only go down to 4.5. So we're only cutting up to 4.5. So 1 inches to 4.5. I'm just gonna double check mine is correct. 1 inches to 4.5. I may have gone further, but it's fine. So now we have our track. For the slider, so this one is 7.5 by 1.5 inches, and it's basic white thick. Along the short edge, score that right in the center, so align it at 3/4 of an inch and score it down. Turn it anti-clockwise 90 degrees and cut 2 slits. So for this one, align the left edge at 1/2 inch and cut down about 1/2 inch. Move it along to 7/8 of an inch, so about move it along 1 centimeter, and then cut down again at 1/2 inch. So you will have your slider piece with two cut lines, and that will be our tab. And the way to do this is we're just gonna fold and burnish that score line. And we're just doing this so the slider is quite strong. So that's why we're using thick and we're doubling it up. I'm going to cut the finger tab onto the right hand side. So I've measured 5/8 of an inch from the bottom and then an inch on top. So I'm just going to use the best label die, and then just cut finger tab on it so you can align it up on the halfway point. Just make sure it's nice and straight, and then bring it up again to the top mark, halfway down, and cut. So now we have a place for the pull tab. Okay, so we're just going to glue the back and then the main piece. You can insert your ribbon onto here now if preferred as well, so it'll be easier. So I have a piece of pecan pie bordered ribbon, which is 3 inches. I'm just gonna fold that in half and use glue dot and insert that in. So glue dot, fold that in half, and then glue dot again. So fold your piece, and if you want, that is gonna cut. So probably it doesn't matter if it's too long. Probably 3/8 of an inch. But what you'll do is, and then aim 3/8 of an inch on the right hand side, and then add some more glue just so it helps it. The mini glue dot is there just for quick adhesion, but the multi-purpose liquid glue is there so for extra support. So I'm just going to add that in and then fold that down. Okay, the only place that we didn't add glue is the cut areas, okay, because we're going to slot the up onto the slit. Whilst you're gluing, mat and layer your sentiment on the crumb cake. And we're going to add this on top. So now that we have that in place, we're going to just slot in from the bottom up the tab that we created. So it should go up from there, and that's gonna travel across. Okay, and that's where you're gonna add your sentiment. Check how far along it is, cut it down, and then stick that on. So go at least further along that point or the edge, the card edge, so you won't see the joint. And then add that on the right hand side. So that's all the way up. Just add our backing. So you'll need the foam strips. So just make sure it's nice and straight. Go along and then just cut the end piece. And just double check that it still moves. Use the backing, and you can use it as a stopper or extra stopper, so you don't have to worry that it's gonna go all the way in. And then enclose that on the top with another foam strip. So do leave a bit of space along the top just so it moves freely and not too tight. Finally, just add more of the foam strips, or you can use dimensionals instead, but I think the foam strips are slightly higher than the dimensionals. So now we can add our layer on our card. So take your pick tool for ease to take out the backing. Double check that your slider is still in place. Keep it down and maybe support it. And keep in mind that you'll have an 1/8 of an inch border around, so keep that in mind, and then stick down one side and the rest should fall in place. Double check that your slider is freely moving, which it is, and push it all the way in, and we're gonna add our horse and sleigh. So keep in mind, again, check where your track is. So you want that hidden. So it's gonna go, the horse is gonna hide the end, and the sleigh is gonna hide your tab. So add glue on the tab. And don't be blobby, and make sure that you don't put too much that it's gonna hit the track. Place this along, make sure that it's covered. There you go. And then we're just gonna add our sentiment. So you just need to add glue on the bottom left where it's gonna add onto the horse, or if it's easier, add glue where the horse is. So add glue at the back, especially on the ears. And slide that down. Where you want it. Again, keep in mind, make sure that it's nice and straight. Press and hold. And then to finish up, we're gonna use the neutrals adhesive back sequence, and I'm just gonna add 3 along the base here. I think the small ones. So you don't need much, or you can add more if preferred, and use the snowflakes up on top. So here's the slider card completed. This one I've just done, so it moves freely on the right hand side, and it takes the horse and sleigh and the sentiment out of the card easily by pulling the ribbon, and it hides it onto there. The original was this one, slightly ink blended on top, pecan pie on the stamping, and I may have used 2nd generation crumb cake on this one as well. So that feels a bit more tighter. I hope you enjoyed this horse and sleigh slider card. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel if you would like to see more card making and papercraft inspiration using Stampin' Up products. Thanks again for joining me today. Until next time, bye!